Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Community and Partnership Scrutiny Committee. There's just some stuff I have to read out first to make it all official. This is a meeting of the Council held in public. It is not a public meeting. There is no fire drill planned, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it is safe to return to the meeting. We are recording the meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and will also be available on the Council's website following the meeting. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. If public in attendance, generally the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. Anyone intending to film or audio record any part of the meeting is asked to do so in a manner that does not disrupt the meeting. Please refrain from filming the public gallery. Thank you very much. Apologies for absence. Got two, haven't we?
Yes, thank you, Chair. An apology from Councillor Strada and Councillor Joseph. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Right, okay. Right, we have to approve the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on a Thursday the 3rd of July. Has everybody read it? Yeah. Have you both read the minutes of the 1st of April?
I'd like to speak on the minutes of the 1st of April, if I may, please. For a start, the two agenda items, 4 and 5, they're in the wrong order. It was the Morgan Sindall that was the first item, followed by the health item. That was, well, you should remember that, Val, you were at the meeting. And in relation to the Morgan Sindall minutes, there's quite a few pages of them, because the chair, because it was a joint meeting with was it the policy scrutiny committee, and it was chaired by Councillor Callaghan, and she had an awful lot to say. In fact, she spoke for a couple of hours, I believe, and it was at the end I was allowed to ask one question, and then I was stopped because there was another item, and I think that's very wrong. We are members of the scrutiny committee, and it was every other member had a chance, an opportunity to question, because that's what we're here for, to scrutinise what's in front of us. And I was stopped from speaking, and I don't think that's right, and I just like that noted, please, that we, the scrutiny committee, should all have a fair share of what we are able to say at these meetings. Cabinet members come along to respond to our questions as well, but it should not take the place of the actual committee members. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, Councillor Callaghan chaired that meeting. Her and I had a discussion, and I thought it was better that she actually chaired the meeting because we called it together and she'd done all the work on it. So if there's any discrepancy with what's in the minutes, then we won't sign it off. We'll hold it over, and I'll have to speak to her to make the changes.
They've been agreed at the commission, the last commission. This is to acknowledge them here, so we can take on board the comments that Councillor Sargent said.
Right. So all we've got to do then is just acknowledge that they're there.
And I can write that in the minutes, Councillor Sargent.
And in the meantime, I'll speak to her about it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. Right, the next item on the agenda is public transport. I understand we have Helen Morris,
Yeah, she's
who
attending remotely. Yeah.
Head of Integrated Passenger Transport Unit, Essex County Council, and Julian Elliott, Head of Network, First Bus Essex, to attend the meeting to discuss bus services through the borough. Okay, so over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me this morning. This evening. My name's Helen Morris. I'm, as she say, head of the Integrated Passenger Transport Unit at Essex County Council. I've got some slides to share, so I will do that. It's quite a substantial pack. I am not proposing to run through all of it, but what I will do is send it to the Secretariat afterwards so that you have it. So again, don't be scared when you see there's 29 slides in there, because I won't be running through 29 slides. So I'm going to talk about bus services to start with slightly generally, and then obviously with a focus on Basildon. I'll just introduce our brand across the Essex bus network. So we have an operator-led brand in Essex. It's called Travel Essex. It's the branding and the colouring that you will see on this slide pack, and you will see that on every bus that runs throughout the county. You will see it increasingly on the bus shelters as we roll that out. We have a Travel Essex website that has everything you possibly want to know about buses in Essex. Bus maps, including of Basildon, a new function where you can create your own bus map as well. Lots of information on timetables, etc., etc. So as well, and we've also got a journey planning app again called Travel Essex. So if you want any more information about buses, either in Basildon or across the county, that's always your first port of call. Just gonna switch to slideshow so it's a bit bigger. So I'm just going to speak very quickly about the overall framework within which we work. So the bus network nationally largely is deregulated. What that means is that most of the network is commercially run. So bus operators like First set routes, they set timetables, they set fares, and they do that entirely without the input of Essex County Council, essentially. Essex County Council is not the regulator for buses, that's the Traffic Commissioner. And although we work very closely in partnership with operators, we don't have any role in setting the network where it's commercial. In Essex, about 85% of the network is commercial, so it's a substantial commercial network. And then round about 15% of the network is supported by Essex County Council. So that's about £11 million worth of investment, and those are what are known as supported local bus services. So vast majority of the network Essex County Council has no role in, other than working with operators in a partnership. We do have a number of roles within that. One of those is to produce something called a bus service improvement plan. And when I send the pack round, you will see that there's a link in it to take you to that if you're interested. It's a very comprehensive document. The format is set by central government, and essentially we provide information, strategy, targets, that sort of thing within that. The second relevant thing at the moment is something called our BSIP delivery plan. What that sets out is how we are intending to deliver our bus service improvement plan using the round about £24 million of grant funding that we have been given by the Department for Transport for that purpose. So again, there's a link there for you to have a look at, and there's a range of projects in there. I'll touch on a couple of them in a minute, but again, that's where it's set out comprehensively. Essex County Council also has a duty to review where a commercial service isn't provided and to decide whether one should be provided. We have a very comprehensive policy that guides how we do that. It is largely about accessibility. So essentially what it is there to ensure is that a community of a certain size has a bus service that means it can access services, shopping, hospitals, work, that sort of thing. What it does not mean is that Essex County Council provides services for everybody. So its services are commissioned on a community basis, not on an individual basis, and it's the scale and size of the community that establishes whether, if there's not a commercial service, Essex is going to step in and provide one. There's good news on buses. So as you'll see from the data between 2023-24 and 24-25, so this is the most up-to-date data we have, we saw an additional 2 million journeys on the bus network in Essex. So in 23-24, there were just over 35 million journeys on the bus network in Essex. In 24-25, there were over 37.5 million journeys on the bus network in Essex. So it's a huge provider of really important travel opportunities to many in our communities. And as you can see, it's had a healthy growth rate over the last couple of years. So where does Basildon appear in all that? So Basildon had our highest priority project for delivery in our bus service improvement plan, and that was what we were then calling the Basildon Vault. So that was the electrification of the Basildon bus fleet, and I'm going to touch briefly on that. I'm assuming Julian's going to talk a bit more about that, so I won't steal his thunder, but that was really significant investment by First Essex, over £25 million of investment coming in, supported by a small amount of central government grant to bring electric buses to Basildon. Basildon's also the location of the world's first redesigned high sustainability bus shelter. So those were launched a couple of weeks ago. A fabulous project, again, that I'll touch on in a bit more detail here. It's also the location for capital investment coming forward, and I'll share some of the projects briefly there as well. And finally, what I've linked you to is what is known as an area network review. So that was a very specific look at the Basildon network, its strengths, its weaknesses, where there might be opportunities, and some ideas for improvement. So this is just quickly looking at the electric buses coming. This is my slides are a bit out of date. The Basildon depot now looks completely different to this because it's got all of the recharging infrastructure in now. Absolutely fabulous high spec vehicles, really, really comfortable to travel on. So those are some of the headlines. Again, I won't steal Julian's thunder, but the reason we chose Basildon as our flagship electrification, first zero emission buses running from Essex depots was because Basildon is our strongest bus town. So it's always been very strong. It also came back from COVID very, very strongly as well. So in terms of investment, it's a really good place to invest in the bus network as well. And that's just some of the detail around it. Again, the routes that are covered, obviously travelling to other areas of Essex as well as Basildon, and then just some of the vehicles that are coming as well. This is our greener route milestone shelters. So you might have seen some of them. Completely game changer for the passenger experience. They've been redesigned from scratch. They have had to create an entirely new supply chain because there was nothing in this country set up that could deliver what they wanted. The timber, for example, is from Scotland, so completely sustainable. The lighting levels have been designed, they're solar powered to be optimal for lip reading. The seating has been tested so that the angle between the back of the seat and the seat itself are at the optimum position for comfort. So it's an absolutely fabulous redesign. They come in different sizes. As I say, there are solar panel options, as you can see in the middle one. There's green roof options. They have a significantly lower carbon footprint than the current shelters we deliver. There are rare and at-risk plants planted in the back of the planter, and that also helps stabilise it. They've been tested against vandalism. Obviously, you can never entirely prevent vandalism, but they've been really tested in that as well. So they're really a fabulous shelter and really worth going and having a sit in, to be honest. That's some of the people that the team worked with to bring them to Basildon. That's only a part of the engagement. There was huge engagement on it. As you can see, they're quite modular as well, which is why they're so flexible in terms of the scale and size of them. Those are some of the key benefits. Again, I'm not going to go through them individually, but you'll be able to have a look when the pack comes round. The other thing I would just highlight is something called NaviLens, which is it's sort of large, bright QR code that is much easier to access through your phone, and which can give you really inclusive data. Next, bus information, but obviously if you've got Reader on your phone as well, it will read that out as well. So that's really fabulous innovation as well. Living roofs as well. Again, a really good investment, and much lighter shelter structure, so easier to deliver a low carbon version as well. All along Whitmore Way, so I think there are 2 in now, but do go and have a look at them because they not only look really good, they are really good in terms of what passengers are looking for. So 2 other things that we have in our delivery plan that are Basildon specific. One of them I haven't got a slide on, but it's a project called Thrive. And what Thrive was designed to do was to test different interventions in bus routes to see which of them grow buses best. So how do you grow patronage on a bus route? So we were testing different interventions. So marketing, digital only marketing, better information, increased frequency, and ticketing initiatives. and Service 9, I think it is, has was the one that won the grant funding for the better information. So again, we're working with First Bus on that to put some more investment into Basildon to test how much the service can grow with investment around better information. It's one of the things that passengers often raise with us. Another area of investment in the delivery plan is around capital projects. This is the list of the Basildon projects. Basildon already has pretty good bus infrastructure. Again, our new towns do, so that's a real benefit, but obviously there's always room for improvement, and that's a list of around about 13 of the schemes that we will be taking forward over the next 2 years. I mentioned our supported local bus services earlier, so Basildon does have a good, strong commercial network, as I said, but it also has 14 local bus services or parts of local bus services that are supported by Essex County Council as well. I'm just going to run you through, every year we do a passenger survey, but also looking at car drivers and some of the things that they tell us about the bus network and why they choose not to use the bus, for example. So I'm not going to go again through every single slide, but as you can see, we got a good response rate from Basildon residents when we asked them. Overall journey satisfaction is high. So the darker the colour, the better the outcome. And as you can see, we've got an 82% either very satisfied and satisfied. So that's really, really good. If you just cast your eye over the slides, what you see, where you see the issues are bus cleanliness, punctuality, things like that. So again, we look at what our passengers are telling us when we're developing our strategy, and we try to turn that and reflect that into actions to deliver more of what they want. Punctuality is a really big challenge. As all of you probably know, congestion in Essex is a really big problem. The network is pretty much at capacity. So if you even get something small like a car breaking down or a minor prang, then the network starts to seize up. Anything larger like an accident, again, it just has a major impact on the network, and that impacts buses. So punctuality is always one of the big issues that passengers raise with us. Again, the two things that pretty much always come top when we ask people what would you like us to improve: reliability and frequency. So people do like services, they're almost called step up and ride frequency. So you're looking at a sort of 10-15 minute frequency where they don't even have to look at the bus timetable. They essentially know if they come to the stop, they will never be waiting more than 10 minutes. That is something that you see a lot in large urban areas like London. It is much, much harder to deliver cost effectively in Essex. Bus services are very expensive to run, the vehicles are expensive. Obviously, drivers attract a good rate of pay, etc., etc. So, and fares are relatively low. So, building sufficient investment from a £2, £3, £4 fare to increase frequency of services, that takes a lot of revenue to do that. So again, that is definitely an issue in Essex. It's a challenge for any area that's shaped like us. And I would say Basildon probably is one of the areas where you've got a higher level of frequency than other areas of Essex. Bus stops, so again, really important. I've talked about shelters for a bit, but a well-maintained bus shelter not only makes people feel safer, it makes their journey significantly more pleasurable. People travelling by bus, again, the vast majority of bus passengers use the bus because they have no other option. That's why delivering a good service is really important. But it also means that we need to attract more people for whom it is a choice. So the way you have a really strong bus network is by having a really good financial underpinning that has people across the whole of your community. That's what you see in London. and that's really what you want to see elsewhere. So attracting for certain journeys, the bus is never going to be appropriate for every single journey, but there are many journeys where people's cars essentially sit in a car park for a lengthy period, when actually a bus would have been a good investment in their community for them to have made their journey by bus. Purpose of journey, so the big two are always commuting to work and shopping. You then always get substantial numbers either making medical appointments or leisure trips, and that's just the normal shape of the bus network. And again, you'll see that sort of tail of others. Children travelling to school also really important, really good sustainable way for large numbers of children to get to make the school journey. Again, this is about improvements. I've talked about that, so there's a bit more detail in there for you to have a look at on that one. Again, we're really interested in the things that make a difference to people's journey, so how people get information about their bus travel. That's a large one for us, and again, there's some interesting nuggets in there. And again, just information about when people are travelling, etc., how they're travelling, which routes they're using. We have some quite granular data on that. Just going to flick through the next few because they're quite detailed. But again, once you've got the pack, if you've got any questions, please do just come and ask us. So these are non-bus users. So again, if we want to do something about congestion in Essex, we do need to attract more non-bus users. And as you can see, the top answer to what would encourage you to use the bus is nothing. So we do have a big challenge. A lot of it is about convenience. People are time poor, and ensuring they can make complex journeys easily is really important. And that's just some basic and that's essentially the information I was going to run you through. So I'm now happy to take any questions, or I'm happy, if you want to hear from Julian, to wait for questions afterwards.
Right, thank you very much. Would Julian like to carry on, and we'll have all the questions at the end?
Okay, thank you. My name's Julian Elliott. I'm Head of Network for First Bus for the area. A colleague with me today, James McCluskey, our Commercial Director. So I'm just going to take you through a slide pack concerning mainly our bus operation in Basildon, a bit more specific detail about our Basildon network, and I'm going to actually talk about our operation here and where we run, a little bit about our electrification project, which Helen sort of introduced in her presentation, and also a little bit about First Bus's sort of overall decarbonisation plan. So I'm just going to work my way through the slides. So here in Basildon, we have 70 buses parked over the road in our depot at Cherry Down, depot that's been here for around 60 odd years. And of those 70 buses, around 55 will be electric by the end of this month. We've currently got 41 in service with another 14 still to come. So they're coming in at a rate of about 6 a week. So it's been quite a significant and impressive kind of logistical challenge of swapping out the fleet as they come in, bringing in the new buses, taking the old ones out in a smooth fashion that doesn't affect the day-to-day operation. That electrification project has been achieved by working in partnership with Essex County Council. We worked together to secure the government funding through the ZEPA 2 grant funding mechanism. Being locally based here in Basildon, we are one of the larger employers in the town. We have around 200 staff based at our local depot in Cherry Down, and of those, around 165 are bus drivers. The network that we run, it sort of drops into kind of two categories really. There's our regular, simple, easy to understand bus services in the towns, town centre, running out to the key sort of suburbs of Basildon itself, like Felmores, Pitsea, Langdon, Langdon Hills, across the town. That's the B1 up to the B5. They're the local bus route numbers for the town services. And we also run a number of key interurban services which go further out of Basildon, but head sort of north, east and west. So we run out to Wickford and onto Raleigh and Southend. We run down the A13 corridor to Southend as well. And Canvey Island, we go north to Billericay and Chelmsford, northwest to Brentwood, and also south and southwest down to Stanley Hope, Grays and Lakeside. So it's quite a comprehensive network that we provide. We also have an airport service which links Basildon to Chelmsford and Brentwood Hospital and Stansted Airport, which have been running for about 9 years now, and it's grown in popularity, so you can get a direct connection virtually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through to the county's biggest airport on one bus from here in the middle of Basildon. Something Helen mentioned in her presentation as well, that the South Essex road network, particularly in the urban areas, is very congested. We have several key corridors, you know, the A13, the 127, M25, A130, all very, very close by. And so that leads to especially at sort of peak time, at school time, higher levels of congestion. So when we plan our timetables, we build in extra running times for those times a day, because the journey length varies quite considerably between, say, 6 in the morning, completely different to what it is to, say, 8 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon. So they do vary quite considerably, but we do that in order to provide a consistent, you know, a journey time which is dependable for our customers and reflects the time it takes to do the journey. Over the last couple of years, we've developed our tech provision. We have a First Bus app which gives real-time data, shows where the buses are, you can see them on the map. It gives ticketing solutions as well, so you can buy a ticket through your phone app for a range of different products which scan on the bus, and it's like a one-stop shop. So the app provides the data for when the buses are coming, live information, and also the ability to buy a ticket. And that's one of our sort of most popular methods of being able to get a ticket now. We also have a capping system where you can just tap your card on the bus. So nice and easy, you jump on the bus, tap your card in the Basildon area, and if you do a certain amount of journeys per day or per week, it caps out at a kind of daily cap or a weekly cap. We will be revising that in 2026 to what we call a tap-on, tap-off system, whereby the fares are reflecting distance. At the moment, tap and cap gives you a flat fare, but tap-on, tap-off will allow the shorter distance fares to be used. So when you tap off the bus, you only get, you know, charged for what you're actually travelling, and that will also have a daily cap. So that's something that's going to, we hope to see live in early 2026. We've got the £3 maximum fare scheme, adult single fare scheme is in place until March 27. That superseded the £2 scheme that was in place for 2 years. And something we've just done across the summer is we've reviewed some of the pricing of our shorter distance journeys, so that, you know, if you're travelling a shorter distance, say from Great Knightleys into Basildon, for example, the fares are less for that distance to reflect the fact that it's a shorter distance into the town, and you're on the bus for a lesser time. So there's been quite a lot of work going on there in terms of what we offer the customer in terms of technology and also our pricing. If I just may move on to our bus network map. There we see the bus network of Basildon, showing the urban area and the links going out to further afield. The B routes, the B1, 2, 3 and 4, and the B5 up to the industrial area, there are kind of nice and short, sharp routes which you're only on the bus for about sort of 20-25 minutes maximum. They don't actually leave the wider urban area of the town. They all finish in the bus station, and they offer like a nice, neat solution for linking the town centre to the main urban areas of Basildon. So they're our town services, but overlaying that, we do have a range of bus routes which link out to further afield. So as you can see, there's a 300 up to Chelmsford, there's a 9 across to Billericay and Brentwood heading north. We've got services out to Wickford, which carry on to Raleigh and Southend. We've got a bus every 10 minutes going down the A13 to Southend, and a 22 to Canvey, and then we've got our services which head southwards out of the borough, down into Thurrock, so across Thurrock through Stanley Hope, Corringham, Grays and onto Lakeside, which is sort of quite popular for shopping, particularly as we sort of head towards Christmas. So Basildon's a well-connected town. The network's been fairly stable in its design for the last 3 or 4 years. We had a review back in 2022 where we made the town services into like shorter routes and tailored the frequency to where the demand was most seen. So it's quite a stable network. The vast majority of it is commercial. There are a number of supported journeys in the evenings and on a Sunday evening on some of the town services, but other than that, it's a largely fully sort of commercial network. Just want to talk a bit now about the EV project. So you can see, I think the picture Helen showed earlier of the first sort of stage of the construction, which began last year. And in this picture here, you can actually see the gantries that have been put in place. This is 4 large gantries which have chargers which kind of can come down and plug the bus in, and it's a kind of enables us to park and charge the 55 electric buses in our depot, which is quite some feat because it's a relatively constrained site. So it's been a tailor-made solution to deliver something that we can get the best out of the space available to us and put the most amount of electric buses in there. So we have, I said earlier, we have 55 buses coming. There's 41 in place now. There'll be 31 single-deckers and 24 double-deckers. Brand new U-Torn buses are really, really nice products, comfortable, smooth. I've ridden them a couple myself recently, and they're a real pleasure to travel on, and they really do sort of stand out in terms of their appearance. And that's been as a result of the successful Zebra 2 bid, which we sort of mentioned earlier. And at the point that they all enter service by the end of the month, we're looking at sort of 80% of the Basildon-based fleet being electric. So the Basildon town network, which I described a minute ago, the B routes will be 100% run by the electric buses, and most of the outer town routes will see electric operation as well. Electric buses on those routes will reach out to the places I mentioned earlier, like Billericay, Wickford Raleigh, Southend, Chelmsford and Thurrock. And we hope to work with partners to develop further schemes as we go forward into future years. So there's a couple of pictures there. There's one of the new single-deck buses which are coming. So they've got a nice specification interior, nice comfortable seats. They've got next stop information screens which provide a commentary or a kind of next stop notification as the bus travels down the road, goes past a particular bus stop. The name of the next stop will come up on the screen, and it will be announced audibly as well, so that people can know where they are. But it's particularly helpful, in the winter months where it's darker as well, as to sort of seeing where you are on the bus, and also for people who may have sort of visual disabilities as well. So that's a really sort of good feature of the new vehicles. You see they've got nice digital mirrors as well on the buses, so they're all to the latest specification in the new build. So we're really sort of proud of these new vehicles that are now going into service. Just a little bit here, just to kind of move on to how electric buses with First Bus have developed over the last 3 years. If you wind the clock back to 2022, there were just over 200 electric buses in service, mainly based in Glasgow, Aberdeen, York and Leeds. And as we move into 2025, with this year's rollout and the stuff that's happened in between 22 and 25, you can see now we're now north of 1,250 electric buses actually on the road, which includes the 55 here at Basildon. And we've also got experience within our area in which we operate of having sort of nearly 70 odd electric buses in Norwich as well. So that's given us a good grounding and an experience leading up to the deployment here, that we could learn from that experience and deliver a really, really good deployment here in Basildon, which seems to be going very successfully, I'm pleased to say. There we go. And as we go into the future years, there's going to be more buses delivered into other parts of the country, and there's projects planned for Bristol, Bath, London, Glasgow and Aberdeen this year and into next year as well. Our First Bus commitment is to deliver by 2035 a 100% zero emission commercial bus fleet, which has been something that's been sort of publicly stated for the last couple of years, and we're on target to be able to deliver that. Just move on to the next one. There we go. So sorry, the slide seems to have frozen at the moment. Let's go in there. There we go. So this is just an insight into how our programme's delivered. We have a first bus decarbonisation team who work with the local business units to be able to deliver work with partners such as Essex County Council to deliver the project, and it's really around a lot of sort of property modification, the construction phase. There's obviously finance and procurement elements to it in terms of securing orders for the new vehicles, and then delivering the programme with a focus on operational and engineering excellence, and ultimately sort of feeding through into our bus networks. So there's a multi-phased kind of programme that kind of delivers the kind of from the start to the finish of a project. Starts off with a business case, and then there's a lot of design, a lot of engagement, and as you work through the programme, generally over the course of it's probably about 12 months or so, there's a delivery of buses and all the power upgrades going on at the same time, all the sort of commissioning of all the electrical equipment, and there's a hell of a lot that goes on behind the scenes to deliver a smooth programme. So a lot of these things take place whilst still running a normal bus service every day using existing buses. So our Basildon Bus Garage has been undergoing a transformation over the last 12 months, and it's credit to everybody involved that day-to-day activity has been able to continue normally, working around the project that's being built at the same time, and it was delivered on time and in line with expectation. So it's been a success in that regard. Just a little bit about charging infrastructure, because when there's a big bunch of buses in one place, say 55 vehicles, all charging at the same time overnight, that's a big kind of obviously concentration of electricity demand at the same time. So since 2021 we've put in 650 sort of rapid chargers into our depots, and then the power upgrade that needs to be delivered into the site has been achieved as well. So each time a bus is electrified, the connection to the grid has to be established in order to provide the correct sort of charging capacity and demand at the same time. And the overhead gantry systems have been sort of devised in order to optimise the space and provide a sort of safest way to park buses into the garage in a confined space, and have a model which actually works really, really slickly and efficiently. And there you can see some of the sort of the kind of ground-based chargers there. That's what they actually look like. And there's an example of a gantry based system which we've got here in Basildon, which seems to work very successfully. There's another one there. And then that one there, that's a picture of Leicester Garage at night time, when it was one of the first depots that was electrified about 2 years ago. There's a fully electric depot. So the processes and the designs that have been adopted here in Basildon have been sort of tried and tested elsewhere successfully over the last couple of years. And so far, everything seems to be going as we'd hope it would be. There we go, there's the buses. So we're using a number of different types there. The ones we have in Basildon are the Yutongs, which are the middle two pictures there. There's a double-decker design, which we've got 24 of those, and we've got 31 of the single-deck buses, which is like the Aberdeen one shown underneath. So buses have been sourced from 3 different manufacturers as we've sort of developed our replacement programme over the last couple of years. There's also, when we look at electrification, there's also third-party charging opportunities where we can work with partners to deliver charging schemes which can potentially use the infrastructure at times where there's no buses in the yard because they're all out carrying people during the daytime. So it's something that we're looking to develop with partners in order to be able to sort of make the most of the electrical charging ability that we have. And it's something that we're going to looking to roll out over the coming years. Okay, so thank you. That concludes our presentation, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody got any questions? Randy?
Yes, please. We've still got Helen online, haven't we?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Roberts. So yeah, firstly, big thank you, Helen and Julian, for sparing your time to come before the Scrutiny Committee today, and for your in-depth presentations. I've got a question for Helen. Certainly, you obviously spoke at length regarding kind of living roos, bus stop satisfaction, and that people use buses to get to work or go to the shops. I think my question relates to, your comment around the scale and size of the community as a driver of bus route provision. And I think I certainly be very interested to hear about what you can tell the committee around future provision, given that obviously this council is going through a local plan process. Growth and house building is one of the key missions of the government, and that Balzon as a community will change over the next years and decades. So yeah, Helen, is there anything you can say the scrutiny talk to the scrutiny committee about future provision with growth in mind, Section 106 monies in mind, because that didn't seem to feature in the bus improvement plan or the delivery plan, and certainly looking at capital investment projects. You'd thought about making sure that there were bus routes on new build developments, for example, and making it kind of easier for people to get on buses, being a bus route right outside where they live would probably be easier than investing in a main bus shelter, which could be miles away from where somebody lives. So hopefully Helen, that kind of gives you a bit to go on for what I'm hinting at.
So it certainly does. We work in partnership with district colleagues and borough colleagues and city colleagues, obviously, who lead on Section 106 negotiations. And we normally look for two things. Oh, sorry, I'm echoing. Someone got there. Can you mute the committee room? Am I coming in on someone's mic? Is that better? Oh, that's better. Can you still hear me? Oh, can you hear me? Yeah. So we work with district, city and borough colleagues who obviously lead Section 106 negotiations, and there are normally two things we're looking for. One is infrastructure. So that can be anything from new bus lanes to bus shelters to real-time passenger information screens, which are the signs that count down to your bus's arrival. But also services. So obviously it's no point in having loads of really bus infrastructure if you haven't got any services. So we work with district, city and borough colleagues to essentially come up with an ask that will be based on the scale of the development, what sort of level of sustainable travel target it's got, etc., etc. And we will come up with an ask that then goes into the Section 106 negotiation to try and achieve that. As you will know very well, it is a negotiation, and it can be challenging for colleagues. And obviously, we understand that. Essex County Council doesn't lead those discussions. That is very much district, borough and city colleagues, and we support with information where we can. The second thing is always affordability. So even if you secure what looks like a healthy Section 106 settlement, sometimes affordability of a development can change, and so actually sometimes the sums aren't forthcoming. But as a principle, we always look to argue for a really high level of sustainable travel, because local residents quite supportive of development where it does not adversely impact on the existing network or on existing infrastructure, but obviously like doctors' surgeries and that sorts of things. So making sure that a development in effect pays its own way is really, really important to residents as well as to us. So yes, so that is covered in the bus service improvement plan. I should say the bus service improvement plan is something like 170 pages long. And so I could have taken you all the way through it, but we would have been here till about midnight. I'm quite happy to come back and talk about other elements of it if people are interested.
Thank you very much. Is you, Councillor Sargent?
Thank you. Thank you to both of you for such impressive presentations. I've not been on a bus for a while, so I've got to say I was duly impressed the fact that we've turned electric, but with all the paraphernalia, all the digibits and all the lovely stuff. And I really like the bit about the lip reading, because both myself and my husband have hearing problems, so that is an absolute, it's good for disabilities. So and I'm sure the bus shelters are are good for the disabilities as well. I mean, that the new bus shelters have gone down extremely well. I'm really impressed with the county council that have purchased all of them and given them to us. I did wonder why the electrics had come to Basildon. Were we first, or are we somewhere in the middle? I mean, that's great. Are yours, Helen, your buses, are they based mainly around the town, around Basildon, your
So,
service? And if I
yeah.
can just ask a few more, we have at this committee, when we've spoken on youth, we've spoken about the school bus service, because that's very expensive. Is that what your service provides, or is it both services? Hospital, that's most important, that you know, the buses get to the hospital. Do you do a weekend service?
Okay, so I'll pick up a few of those and then I'll hand over to Julian.
Yes, please,
Uh,
and then I'll ask Julian some questions, if I may, Chairman.
okay, so some of these I'll probably pass over to Julian anyway, but so yes, Basildon is the first electrification in Essex. We chose it, so we had 5 big projects that we set out in our bus service improvement plan, and our priority project was Basildon electrification. The reason we chose Basildon was because it's our strongest bus town. So the people of Basildon have been very supportive of bus, and we wanted to put some investment back into that. So the opportunity to bid for funding came along. As I say, most of the investment came from First itself. So around about 25 million from First, around about 5 million of government grants that Essex County Council had to bid for. So it was a really good partnership bid there, and absolutely Basildon is the first in Essex to have a depot electrified, and certainly to have that number of buses running. So it's really good. Do go and have a go on them. They are fabulous. They're so smooth. They are very, very quiet. So do watch what you're saying if you're having a conversation, because people can hear it really easily, is one of the things we've learnt. But they are absolutely fabulous vehicles. I think the map Julian showed shows you basically the way that First manages their network. So they have, most networks in Essex have an set of urban services that largely serve the town or city. Then they'll have a set of interurban that run between towns and cities. And then they will have normally some rural services. So that's what you tend to see across Essex. And again, if you go to the Travel Essex website, there's a tab called, I think it's Timetables and Maps, and you can look at bus maps to your heart's content, and that will show you all the different services and where they go as well. School transport is delivered in a mix of ways. So many children travel on the commercial services, and so operators will set the fares for that. For what are known as entitled children, there's a statutory requirement for children who live a certain distance from school largely. There are some other variations around it, but it's largely distance from school. And those journeys will then be taxpayer funded, and they're delivered in a variety of ways. Most of our entitled children are in rural areas, as you can imagine, because the distance criteria is 3 miles. And again, so when we talk about school services, there are different types. There are those that are a standard commercial bus service that children will get on to go to school. Then there are those that are procured because children have a statutory entitlement. But we also buy tickets on commercial services. So if there's a commercial service, we will buy tickets for entitled children in order to get them to school. Hospitals are absolutely vital part of the bus network. So one of the things we learnt from COVID was when key workers were travelling, the bus network really supports this country in terms of it actually operating. So the services that held up were those that went into hospitals. So a lot of hospital staff, the cleaners, the nursing staff, the admin staff, they used the bus to get to work. A lot of food retail staff, shelves, people who stack the shelves, again, cleaners, etc. They also use the bus substantially. So when operators are looking at designing routes and when we are looking at designing the supported network, access to healthcare, access to shops, really, really important. We'd run something called an accessibility survey. That looks at how quickly you can get from anywhere in Essex by public transport to key services. And that's basically a test of how good our public, largely bus in Essex, but obviously also rail, also tube in some areas of Essex, how good that is in supporting people to access services. And hospitals are one of the key parts of that, alongside doctors, surgeries, pharmacies, that sort of thing as well. So yes, absolutely critical.
Can I ask, would you mind, Chairman, if I ask Julian some questions now?
No, that's fine.
Thanks very much for that, Helen. In relation to the hospitals, there are so many people with hospital appointments now, and the service that you're providing is so, as you say, it's so vital to them because it means that they can get there safely and get home again safely. So, you know, well done. I think you're doing an excellent job. Julian, do you you take the bus passes, do you, on first buses? Yeah.
Yes, we're including the concessionary travel scheme.
And does that apply to the Essex bus service as well, or just the first?
It's all local bus services,
them, yeah.
which are sort of what we term registered local bus services. The NCTS pass scheme is available on all of those, so everything we run that's open to the public, those passes are accepted on. Yes.
Can I just ask you a few? I'll give you a list of questions, or a little list, Julian, if I may. Do you serve the rural villages? We've got Ramsden Bell House, Crays Hill. Some of those have only got 1 or 2 buses a day. Even Steeple View, they're not wonderfully catered for. I mean, I live at Note Bridge and it's fantastic because we got that 100 bus service. So, you know, we're well served, and I think the people living close by are, you know, feel that a better service could be provided. One thing I will take the opportunity to say to you as well, at Note Bridge, the 100 bus, we've had the really double-decker ones, and so many residents have complained because it comes through part of the village and people complain about overlooking, and there's been absolutely nothing that they can do. But I did notice that you've got a number of the single-decker buses now, because it just appeared that there was all double-decker buses. Whereas, I mean, will you be changing them sometime in the future? And is there any chance that some of them could come over to Note Bridge? Because, I mean, I've never been able to complain to anybody on their behalf before. Yeah, that was the overlooking. You do supply a good weekend service, and what I wanted to know as well is there was the 100 bus used to go through right over to, you know, through the route right down to the hospital, but that's now stopped, and a number of residents have said you have to go into the town centre and pick up a bus there, and that can put quite a long time on the journey, particularly for the elderly. If they've got hospital appointments, they've got to go out like hour and a half before their appointment time. Sometimes they can get there very early, but sometimes they can also get a bit later. I thought I'd raise I thought I'd raise that with you. Yeah, and I'm really pleased that you've got the Broomfield service going as well, because Broomfield has, since the hospitals have merged, that one takes on quite a lot of customers as well. So that is excellent, and that's so it's the good with the bad, you know. So I think you're doing an excellent job, and I'm really pleased that Basildon has got the electric bus service. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Can I just ask you some questions?
Just answer my question.
Oh.
No. Right.
Right, thank you. Just taking those in turn, so the rural village connections from Basildon, Helen mentioned earlier about the 85% of the service provision in Essex is commercial, with the other 15% being supported. Well, the bus routes to Ramsden Heath, Ramsden Bell House and Crays Hill form part of the supported network. So there's a number 10 which goes from Basildon up to Ramsden Bell House, Ramsden Heath and across to Wickford. And there's a number 12 that goes through Crays Hill. It goes between Wickford and Billericay. There are two regular services which run every day. I think they're on Monday to Saturday. But they're provided by, they're not provided by First. I think they're provided by, I think Central Connect run both of those. And they're provided, they're supported services which the council would have, Essex County Council would have procured and put out to tender. And the operator that provides them would have won under sort of competitive tender. So there are services there, but being of rural nature, they're not as frequent as the sort of main commercial services that we provide. Double deckers on the 300s that going through Note Bridge. It is a double deck route. It has high loadings at school times. That's why we have double deckers on it. So it has been double deck for about 3-4 years now. There has been a phase while the electric buses have been swapped with the diesels. There's been, you probably might see more single deckers for a short period of time, because as the bus types are transitioning and old ones going out and new ones coming in, there's a kind of a sort of fleet transition, and there were probably less diesel double deckers available for a very short period of time, as some of the electric single deckers were going into service in a phased manner and may have appeared on routes which eventually they wouldn't go on. So that was a temporary situation. But the reason for the double deckers on that route is to cope with the demand at the busier times of day. The reason why we split and you're right, 100 used to go from Lakeside to Basildon to Chelmsford. It's like 30-mile long routes, which it was in that format for many years. But we found, as we came out of the COVID era and into sort of 2021 and 2022, traffic levels returning to normal, being particularly kind of very, very busy in the afternoon at school time. The nature of the 100 going down to Lakeside, being next to the Dartford crossing, was very susceptible to getting delayed. And what was happening was the bus gets delayed in Lakeside, it was affecting the quality of service north of Basildon at times. So say something went wrong with the bridge, there was congestion in Lakeside, it was causing the Chelmsford end of the route would suffer from delays because of something sort of 20 miles away. So we took the decisions, I think it was about September 21, to split it into two sections. And whilst we measured it at the time, and the number of people actually travelling across the middle of Basildon wasn't actually that many. So whilst it did kind of break that cross north-south connection across Basildon, it did sort of drastically improve the sort of reliability of the service, so that if anything happened at the Lakeside end, the Basildon to Chelmsford end wasn't affected. So since then, both routes have kind of benefited from being independent of each other, but there is of course the opportunity to change in Basildon. But the main driving factor behind it was robustness of timetable and to provide a reliable service for customers. So that's why we split that one. Just mention the X10. Yeah, the X10 now serves Broomfield Hospital in Chelmsford, so it's possible to get from Basildon to Broomfield Hospital, and it's something that we've evolved our airport services over the last couple of years to go via Broomfield, because a similar situation exists that the bus route from Southend that goes to Rady also goes to Broomfield Hospital, because we recognise that since the evolution of the NHS trusts into a lot wider areas and people having to travel sort of further distances for specific treatments that happen at certain hospitals, then there's the connection, the bus network has evolved with that, and so we provide that connection that wasn't there previously. So I'm sort of glad that that's been of use. Okay.
Just on that, sorry, Chairman, just on the point about not going straight to, or going on to Basden Hospital.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there any reason for that? Obviously there was.
Yeah, I guess it's just sort of splitting the route at Basildon, because that's probably the most convenient place for people to change buses. It would have created like an overlap, which would have, you know, effectively doubled the amount of buses between Basildon and the hospital. But we felt that putting the extra time into the buses and turning around in the bus station required some extra resources to be able to do that, make it nice and robust and reliable. And we felt that the bus station was the most sort of suitable changeover point, and that's why we split the services specifically at the bus station, because that was the point to which most people were travelling, and that was part of our thinking behind that, to do it there rather than sort of continuing through to the hospital.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jack, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to speak tonight. Julian, listening to you, they're taking me back to my youth of getting the 100 bus from Basildon to Lakeside. Can confirm that was a long while ago, though, but I remember that journey with fond memories. I come to this meeting tonight as the Cabinet Member for Culture, Sport, Children and Young People. I'm going to try and combine all of my responsibilities within one question. One of the things we are really trying to encourage is sustainability. We're trying to encourage leading a healthier life, and we're trying to get people to the Basildon Sporting Village, a brilliant centre right in the heart of the borough, but is also acknowledging how inaccessible that is unless you've got a car or you've tried to park there, and notwithstanding some of the parking challenges that we are frequently inundated with. What needs to happen for us to be able to get a bus route to the sporting village to enable us to widen the reach of individuals that can attend?
Yeah, I guess it's just a little bit offset from where the bus goes to Pips Hill, isn't it? So it's I suppose it's a scoping exercise to see where's the easiest place or the nearest place to drop people off, where there's a sort of safe access to it, and really the bus stop infrastructure and the facility and the wayfinding to get from the core bus network to the sporting village is certainly something we're sort of happy to look at and explore. But at the moment I guess it's on a road which goes east-west across the top of the town, when the bus routes at that point are going north-south. So it's slightly offset from the main kind of north-south axis of where the bus route's running. But certainly, you know, something we're, you know, happy to look at as a potential.
I think the one other thing that would help is any understanding of the volume of people travelling actually to the sports centre. And if we could have that information in times of day and days of week, then it will really help us with building a case for it.
We're happy to share that information with you. I'll get you contact details later and we can let you know.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, James, for coming in there. I suppose as a kind of follow-up to that question, one of the things that one of the initiatives that I'm incredibly proud that we've been able to launch over last year is our Friday Night Out project that encourages young people aged between 11 and 18 to be able to go to the Basildon Sporting Village on a Friday night to take part in a wide variety of sports activities, giving them positive activities to take part in, and giving young people something to do at a challenging time. And one of the things we've heard from the youth provider that we work with is also around kind of the inaccessible for young people in particular to be able to access that particular activity on that Friday evening. I appreciate that we're not able to make any firm commitment tonight, but could we arrange a meeting between myself, officers and yourselves to talk through those challenges and work and identify a way to work forward to address that?
Yes, absolutely. Sounds like a good idea.
Hi, thank you for that presentation. It was actually very informative and I did enjoy it very much. I don't really take the bus myself often. I've taken it once or twice, but I think these new developments are really important. But I did want to ask something in regards to local jobs and how this transition to electric buses are affecting local jobs and especially in maintenance and operations. So I did also want to ask, like, is there a way that we could partner with local colleges or training providers to support new skills, development in those areas? That is, if those areas are affected.
I sense that the key opportunities there may be around the engineering side of our business, and that's one that we can pick up with our colleagues. And again, perhaps it's one that we can follow up on after this conversation.
Just one more question. Will the electric buses be introduced in all neighbourhoods equally, or would some neighbourhoods benefit from it before others?
In terms of the deployment of Basildon, there's 55 buses out of 70, so you'll probably find that all the local bus routes, the B routes, which go to the sort of main kind of urban centres within Basildon, will all be the electric buses once everything's fully in service, and the majority of the outer town buses. So I'd say most journeys locally within Basildon will be electric, and the ones, things like the 100, the 300, the 25 to Southend, they'll be the core routes which kind of will carry the rest of the fleet. There'll still be diesel buses on the 28 coming in from Southend because they run from a different garage, but some of the buses on the 22 to Canby will be electric as well. So you can pretty much sort of say the B routes will be 100% electric, but there'll be a high proportion of electrics, or most of the rest of the routes will be electric with a couple of diesel routes for the smaller scale stuff, things like school routes. Okay, thanks. Cheers.
I've got some questions for you now. I'm sorry to drag it out. On these new electric buses, what's the disabled access like? Is it a lift, ramp, or is it just a low front apron?
The new electric buses, they conform to the same DDA specification for all new buses, which has been in place for a while. So they have ramps, the floor's lower, they have the ramps that fold out, and they have the disabled spaces within the bus, which is all part of, all new buses have to comply with the DDA specification, which mandates that buses have to have low floor access at the front and a wheelchair space, so they conform with that 100% as any other new bus would, whether it be diesel or electric, so they follow the same standards.
So is this every bus?
Yes, yes. So
Right,
all our fleet is accessible. Our fleet is 100%, so even the older buses are all accessible as well, and have been for some time, so it's 100% accessible fleet.
Right, because I get a lot of inquiries about people who can't get wheelchair cabs, and on this basis then they could go and get a bus.
Yeah, each bus has a designated wheelchair space within it.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is how do these electric buses compare to the others? And I am being serious here with regard to the servicing, the charging, and the downtime. You know, is it all running really well, and it's okay?
Yes, so the buses have a range which is suitable for the span of day operation. There's the ability to charge buses during the day to top buses up, but the buses that we have a scheduling module which can tell us when we plan the bus timetables and plan what the buses do across the course of the day. It gives us a predicted state of charge at any given time, so we can schedule the buses so that they remain within the range available, but the range of the buses is very long, so we have buses out from 6 in the morning to 11 at night, all on the same charge, and still have a little bit of charge left at the end of it. And we have an optimisation module where we can put different temperatures in, so we can say, what does it look like at 0 degrees, for example, because in the winter there's more electrical features on the bus running, the heating's on, and so we plan it quite in a detailed way to optimise the length of the bus's day so that it can, you know, fit properly within its charging period. The buses are charged overnight, so within the window of about 4 hours they'll be fully charged and ready again for use the next day. So it's the same process where a diesel bus will come into the garage every night and be filled up with diesel and made ready for the next day. With the electric buses, they're plugged in when they come, they're washed and then they're plugged in and put on charge, and the chargers charge them up overnight so they're ready for their use the next day. Because most buses have a very long operating day, so some buses are out for something like between 12 and 18 hours, depending on what they're actually doing. So they're a very intensively used type of vehicle. So all the technology and the charging aspect is all designed around to cater for that.
Okay, so they're not self-charging.
No, they're charged
Right,
for
okay.
chargers. Yeah.
All right. The other question I wanted to take issue with is the bus to Stansted Airport. I've tried to use it quite a few times and I've not found it very reliable. So the problem that I found is that you buy your ticket and you go to the stop and then the bus can't make it. So is the service getting a lot better now than it was? Because at one time, you know, it was held up at Basildon or you were held up at Stansted. And Stansted is a pretty awkward place to get to, i.e. if you're going to go by train, you go into Liverpool Street and that's still not reliable. So when I saw that the X10 was running, I thought that was a pretty good idea, but when I came to use it, it wasn't.
I'm sorry you've had some poor experiences with it. Like I think all of our services, we think they're at a certain standard. There's always room for improvement, and I think the X10 is one of the ones that I recognise needs some work. I think, as Julian's pointed out, it crosses a lot of major roads, major travel arteries, so it does get affected by the traffic, and it's a hard, long service and a challenging one to regulate. We've worked on a couple of different ways of trying to regulate that service. If it is running late, how do we get it back to time? Where can we turn it? Where are the important stretches of the route to run? But obviously, you're right. Starting point at Basildon, ending point at Stansted. It's a very challenging one to stop and turn or to skip stops to get it back on track. It's I think continues to be a work in progress.
It's just when you rock up with your suitcase, your flight's at a certain time, you want to make sure you're going to get there, and you leave extremely early to get preferably on the first bus, and it doesn't come. So it's a very expensive route if you're going to have to go by another means, by taxi or by car. To put a car in the car park at Stansted, the last time I tried it for a week, was 70 quid. So to have a good bus service backwards and forwards would make it so much easier. But it's got to be reliable.
I think you're absolutely right. Reliability is the key for all of our services, not just that one, but for all of our services, making sure that our customers have confidence that the bus will turn up and get them to the destination at the time we tell them it will. That's the key focus and what we're here to do.
Thank you very much. Right, is there any more questions? No?
Can I just ask one more, please, Chairman? Just a quick one for Julian. Julian, when I spoke about the bus going from Knightsbridge straight to the hospital, there is a bus, I think, is it a number 25 that goes there a couple of times a day? It goes, it doesn't just serve Knightsbridge, it comes somewhere and then it goes directly to the hospital.
The 25 used to go to the hospital on a Sunday, but doesn't. I think it's one journey in the evening that does. So it may be the number 10 that you're referring to. It's one of those.
It might be the number 10.
One of the less frequent sort of rural services that does go down to the hospital.
It's only about 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah, it's about I think it runs about every 2 hours.
Is there no way of getting that a bit more frequent?
That's one of the supported services. So,
do you want me to pick that one up, Julian?
Yeah, please, Helen.
Okay. So the way that we design supported services, as I said, is around communities, and the policy sets out a minimum standard for that. So it will basically be the frequency of a service is based on the size of the community. So the larger communities get more frequent services, the smaller ones get less frequent services. And that's to try and ensure that the service is cost effective to run. What you don't want to be doing essentially is paying large amounts of money for a bus that's running largely empty, because that's not good value for taxpayers. So there's a continual balance to try and get that right. So the frequency will really have been shaped around the size of the community and the level of need that we think is there. So absolutely, people always want more frequent services, but when it's a taxpayer supported one, we have to make some hard judgments about how do we get as full a bus as possible that is offering good value, and also try and meet people's needs. So that's why it will run on the frequency that it does, basically because it's taxpayer paid for.
Thank you very much. I think that's the end of that subject. Okay, right. Can we move on to the next item, number 5? Activity Centre Service Update. Right, okay. Excuse me, Grant. Sorry, I'd just like to say thank you very much for taking the trouble to come down and talk to us tonight, and also to Helen.
Thank you for having us here. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Right, okay, chaps, off you go.
So it's one of those evenings. Right, so earlier this year, as you're all aware, the council changed the model that the community centres are running under. This was following consultations, site visits and speaking to the users of the centres, and as is in the report, there were 5 options. The decision was taken for the council to fully manage the centres and allow the committees to retain an advisory role. Now, over the 3 centres, we anticipated this would bring around £100,000 of savings for the council, so it was quite a substantial amount by doing this. The purpose of doing this was to ensure the long-term sustainability of the centres, and I would like to thank all the officers for all the work they put into this, and Councillor Ferguson, because he changed what I wrote and I changed it back. Did a wonderful job. As you can see, the centres have all been running well. There's been no change to the service that the residents receive there. From the figures, you can see there are more classes running than the previous year, and that gives our residents more access to activities than before. The membership has dropped ever so slightly, but this is something that fluctuates, obviously, due to people moving in and out of the borough, things like that. And we're currently looking at ways to promote the 3 centres and encourage new members to join. The community centres provide a fantastic opportunity for our residents to participate in classes and opportunities that they may not otherwise have access to. They're great for socialising, getting people out of the house, and they're a service that we should and we will provide. So in a time where other councils have proposed to close their centres, this administration found a way to not only keep the centres open, but to ensure their longevity for the time that we have.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chairman. You've covered all the bits I was going to, but just to reinforce about the advisory panel, which has been set up at all of the different sites, very important. 2 of them have already happened. The 3rd one at Langdon is just about to happen as well. We're just doing a little bit of a consultation there, but they're very important for the development of the service as well. And also, there's always new things happening at the sites. Just today, we found out they're going to do a public speaking group at the George Hurd Centre, and also maybe croquet and dressmaking at the Langdon Centre as well, we're hoping for as well. So there's always developments at the service. Thank you.
Okay, is that it? Right, okay then. No,
Thank you, Chairman. First, yeah, thank you, Councillor St George, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Ferguson, all the other officers involved. Oh no, Mr Taylor rather. One day, who knows? Mr Taylor, sorry. Yeah, I think it's good to see that the performance indicators are in line. It's good to see that improvements have been made. While you could say that the performance indicators being in line is evidence that things haven't gotten worse, you could say it's not necessarily proof that things have gotten better, although I think it's probably very fair to say it's early days and it's only been a couple of months, and that it's going to take, you can need much more time to be able to make a proper assessment on the difference. So my question, question number one is, what more improvements can we expect to see over the next year as the change kind of beds in? And number two, relating to the advisory panel, what specific things does it advise on? Am I assuming it kind of relates to activities that take place or general feedback around performance? Because I imagine there might be some things that it may not be the function for it to advise on. So if you can elaborate further on what the advisory panel advises on and can advise on, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so lots of improvements. Our officers are obviously talking to the members on a regular basis, which just links to the advisory panel as well, looking at the different things that people want to do. The trips and the events are extremely important to the membership, so we're always after new different things for them to go. Brighton, Bournemouth, wherever it may be, activities in the evenings as well. Christmas do's, I'm sure all councillors will be invited to the Christmas do's very, very shortly for the socials at the end of it. So yeah, so it's about feedback about what everybody wants to do in it as well. And also there's the domestic things as well, as you know, the council's invested a lot of money into the George Hurd Centre with the new air conditioning system. So telling them the bad news about, unfortunately, we've got to close rooms off so we can get the air conditioning units in there over the next couple of weeks at the George Hurd Centre. The advisory panels, again, is very similar in a similar vein in terms of all those different improvements there as well, and telling them about what's actually happening, and also telling them about the throughput of the sites as well. Just coming back to the improvements as well, we from the 1st of June, when we took on the service, we made a pledge of keeping cash in the site, but we are now offering card payments at all the sites as well, so we can give people the option of cash or card as well.
okay, thank you. Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Chairman. The activity centres has been a jewel in the council's crown for a lot of years, a lot of years, not just one administration, both administrations. And I've always made a pledge when it's been in my gift to serve them that they would not close. And we do hope that they will remain open for a long, long time to come. And we all know that one of the reasons, I mean, it's well known by the officers, I started a review when I had that position because I knew that there would be a time when the council would have to look at the spend and the way that they did operate. And Richard played a big part in that, and it brought forward and made it easier for, you know, when you took over to make the transition to what they are now. I think one of the questions that I would ask now is that are they, I know it's early days, but even so, are they making the savings? You know, it was, you opened up with that it was like the 100k, so it needed to make those savings for the council, you know, for the benefit of the council, you know, for the coffers of the council. I think one of the benefits for the activity centres themselves was that they were free from taking the money, which what posed a problem for most of the committees. You know, when they were having to take the fees throughout the year, it was proving very difficult. And I think that, so if you can, you know, if you can let me know how all of that is working out, because that's taken a burden away. And I know that I think one of them, is it the Pitsy one, doesn't have the coffee making facility that they, unless that's changed, I don't know. I mean, I did have a meet with my leader and Grant some while ago when I was getting questions, and we met with Grant, and I brought them to his attention, to which he duly answered. But obviously, we want those activity centres to prosper and to enjoy the time, and it's pleased to see that they are, you know, the activities are increasing. That's most important. How is the one at Pitsy? Because that centre, you know, it is it's temporary. So if you can give us a bit of an update on when the CDC will, has it been abolished? Demolished, has it been demolished? It's not started up yet, let alone abolish it, but has it, you know, has it been demolished? What is the timelines, you know? How are the residents coping with that centre? Because they are not getting the benefit of being able to go into a centre, sit down and, you know, have freedom. It's just a matter of going to their classes and popping off home. So I know they'll put up with that, but they, you know, what are the timelines on that? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. If I may, I think I've got a list of all your questions here. If I've missed any, please let me know. So the savings were identified at 100,000 per year. This first financial year, because it's a shorter year and various other factors, 50k was put into the budget for that, and then for next year it's 100k. Yes, we're on track for that particular saving. The taking cash and payments, now it's in the council's domain. We've obviously used in the council procedures for money counting, auditing, and procedures that way. We've also got the terminals in for taking cash. So that burden's been all lifted from the committee. It's working well. We're taking an awful lot of cash there. We've obviously got security protocols in place for all that to safeguard that particular money. So that's working well. The Pitsy Tea-Bar, the Pitsy Activity Tea-Bar, it was very, very popular, as you know, it was very, very popular at the place. It hasn't really worked very well at the Wat Tyler Centre. So we did two things. We used the Bitten room as a communal room, which is upstairs, so that with an urn and tea and coffee making facilities. But again, people didn't really seem to want to dwell in that particular area. We tried it outside in the Heritage Barn. Again, people didn't seem to want to dwell in that area. So it's still the community area. So we negotiated a little bit of a discount at the Wat Tyler Cafe, so they could use the facilities there instead. I think you see more people in there in that sort of environment, the cafe environment, talking and socialising there, which seems to work very, very well. But it's not, I won't lie, it's not as popular as the one at the place. That used to be very vibrant, which is really good news, because coming on to the good news of the Pitsy CDC Centre, the draft timetable is about a year and a half away. I believe it's March 2028, just looking for a grant for a nod for that one, but I believe that's the timescale. If you go on site at the moment, it's just a blank space, and they're doing the actual groundworks very, very shortly with a new contractor. So that's about a year and a half away. There's obviously the shuttle bus which the council's put on from the centre of the main part of the Pitsy to the Wat Tyler Centre, which is actually working well. When I've seen shuttle buses used before, it's normally not very well used. We're taking the performance indicators from that. We're looking at the throughput for that, and it actually works well. Very good contractor we've got there in the use of it, which the council's laid on for free. Yeah, so about a year and a half away, and I was going to come on to the final point. Is in the new Pitsea CDC building, there's a T-bar, very similar layout to the old T-bar at the old place, which will be used, and no doubt the volunteers will use it and love it and get back to their home in about a year and a half's time. I hope I've answered all your questions, Councillor Sargent.
Chairman, may I come back on just one item? I'm pleased they are using the cafe, but they did say that the prices were high or they'd increased, and it's a bit difficult. And I think they had hoped that there'd been a bit of a negotiation for them, that they could have been a bit cheaper.
Yes, is the answer to that. We could only negotiate so much. It is a private concession there. We did our best. That's all we could do and get out of the contractor. We have got an opportunity with the concession going out again. We can put into the specification of lowering the prices for the next contract period for the next year or so when the contract's up in about 6 months' time. We can do that and look at that. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Chair. So I don't know what it looks like right now, but I think what I'd like to do is pick up with Richard around where we might be able to get a little bit of funding for some further concessions, because I appreciate that's a business there and they've done concessions. I'm looking at Stacey as well as a funding guru. Perhaps we can look at that, guys, in relation to where we might be able to find a little bit of funding to be able to support a local business, but also build some of those concessions, because I think we have to recognise that what's happening here in Watts Hyde at the minute is not relevant to the piece of work of the activity review. It would have happened separately anyway, because it's linked obviously to the CDC happening. So I think we can do that. I think I also just wanted to just pay tribute really to the activity centre members across all of the centres. I do utterly appreciate that some of the changes we've made over the last year are disconcerting. I totally understand that. I think I've been very lucky enough to work with members across parties over this for a number of years, and we've continually met with the activity centre members and looked them in the eye and given them honesty and our encouragement. I think we were really clear that we wanted to support what they do, and I think we've followed through on that. But I do recognise that it has caused upheaval. We have done our best to limit that, and I hope that from today's report we can see that actually we are coming through this. People are still coming. There are sessions still happening, but it would be wrong, and I don't want to give the impression that only at the point we took over all these great things happened, because there's a load of brilliant stuff happened when the communities were taking that role as well. So I think we've taken the good work that the community have been doing, that our staff have been doing, and we want to continue to drive forward. So I want to thank the staff and all of the activity centre members. And also, I will thank councillors across the house really, because they've been very supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? No. Okay.
Long may they continue, Val.
Yeah.
Yes.
Long may they continue. Right. Voluntary and community sector support work.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. I think it was about 6 months ago that I last attended the Community Engagement Scrutiny Committee, as it was then, and had a presentation from the Basildon, Billericay and Wickford Council for Voluntary Services on an update on services that were delivered over the previous financial year. This council has had a proud tradition, similar to the last item, of supporting our voluntary community sector organisations that have spread across multiple administrations on this council, to recognise, try and champion and support the voluntary community sector to be able to thrive, and recognise the support that it provides community groups across the borough and make a positive difference. I think I speak for all members at that meeting when we received the news that we were shocked and saddened at the imminent closure of the CVS, and wanted to do all we could to be able to support the CVS during that period of time. Ultimately, we had to recognise that the CVS was a separate organisation. The council has a long-standing history of supporting the CVS, separate to the council, although there is a very strong and has been a very strong working relationship. members and officers and I had met on many, many occasions with the CVS, with Essex County Council colleagues and officers as well, to look at the support that we could continue to provide for the CVS, but also look at future models depending on the direction of travel that was taken. I said at that meeting in March, and I said subsequently to all members, that my door remained open for any member of any party that wanted to constructively engage with the administration to support the CVS. And I'm pleased that the shadow member for communities took me up on that support, and I want to thank her for the support that she offered and the engagement constructively during the meetings that we had. It was very, very much appreciated, and I think it allowed us to speak with one voice at these meetings. It became very, very clear that the CVS was going to close, and they announced their intention to close at the end of July. Once that became clear, officers and myself met on several occasions to look at what the future governance models and future support for the voluntary community sector looked like. And I want to take this opportunity to be able to thank Ms Clancy for all of her work and tireless work in being able to understand the landscape that is being provided, understand what organisations are looking for from the council to support, and put in place solutions for us to be able to continue to support the voluntary community sector across the borough and still enable it to be able to thrive. I'd also like at this point to be able to thank all the staff and the trustees of the CVS for the many years of dedicated service that they provided. What we, through our review and through all of these meetings, what became clear is that there is various different levels of support that organisations want from the council, whether that's funding support, whether that's sector representation with statutory bodies, whether that's support with volunteerism, whether that is support in networking and training opportunities. And the officers and myself have been working hard to be able to continue support as much as we can and beyond in many ways, as you can see on the KPI table that is contained within this report, to ensure that the voluntary community sector has the support that it needs going forward. We've engaged constructively with external partners and the place-based team at Essex County Council to direct resources where it's needed within the CVS service, and that is involved engaging with Active Essex and Thurrock CVS to continue providing support from member organisations. That work is still ongoing. One area where I think it's fair to say that we are still developing work around is in our volunteer support package. Still trying to understand the needs from the voluntary community sector around volunteering. There is more work to be able to follow. I'm a huge champion of it, but also need to make sure it's being structured correctly and being able to be delivered in the right way. And that work will continue to be ongoing. But I think from the situation that we face ourselves in, and I think I speak for all members here, that the dedication of our officers has been incredibly strong to be able to continue to champion the CVS and the voluntary services that are being voluntary organisations living across the borough to ensure that where possible we've been able to create new opportunities, where possible we've been able to unlock other opportunities and make sure the services continue to be provided to support the organisations that deliver vital services across the borough continue to be supported. So I'll happily pause and take any questions, Chair.
Thanks, Jack. Any questions? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Chairman. I've noticed, or I've been contacted by Thurrock CVS, not as a, as a volunteer organisation. And to be perfectly honest, I was pleased to have that support. I've not responded to it yet. I've been far too busy. And anything I say as a volunteer, I'm very supportive. So please don't take things the wrong way. But from where I sit, Thurrock have reached out, but Basildon hasn't. I know the Thurrock is the CVS. Thurrock is the CVS, but they're for Thurrock, and they're reaching out to Basildon. So what I'm saying, I'm not talking, and I too, like yourself, Jack, really thank the Basildon CVS for all what they did for Basildon, and I was pleased to attend their leaving events to thank them and hope that sometime in the future they will come back. But at the moment, I don't see where this support is. I am aware, as I've always said, I mean, I don't know how big, small our own community team is, where Stacey sits, and I'm sure it isn't that big. And we're a large town, and we have a lot of community groups, and we must support them. And without that, without that support, they, they'll wither and die. They won't. They need training. They need funding. Sometimes they just need a little bit of funding for certain things. And where do they go? A lot more of those groups are now coming to parish councils. They're coming to the parishes for support, and that's a good thing. But I mean, from Basildon Council's point of view, what are you putting in place to support these people on getting some training, setting themselves up, the governance, which is so important to them. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm just saying, where is it? And it's good enough of the Thurrock CVS, and they've got an event or a couple of events that people have been invited to. But if they have reached out, are we as a council, are you reaching out? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Sargent, for your questions. I think it's fair to say that the Council has seen an increase in organisations reaching out to us. We've got a dedicated communities team that is very well in tune through our officers that know the community groups and know the organisations across the borough that, as you rightly say, are coming to us for funding support, are coming to us for infrastructure support, are coming to us for training needs. We've got an office team that is very well in tune with the local community there. But I also think it's also fair to say to talk around how these changes came about. And 2 years ago, Essex County Council made a funding decision rather than to fund each individual CVS as they had done over many years. They funded a set number of organisations on particular themes of work that were being delivered. So the Reach and Active Essex being a lead partner in one of those who have taken on additional responsibilities across the borough. Other organisations are kind of doing things county-wide. That was a decision ultimately that they made. I don't say that as a political point, I just say that as fact of the direction of travel they took things in. What we have done as a council is look at each of the individual services that are being provided, look at how they can be maintained, look at who can maintain each of those different services to make sure that the voluntary and community sector gets the right support that it needs. I'll hand over to Ms Grancy to talk around the specifics of the role of the Thurrock CVS, the role of Active Essex in those partnership discussions. But our role has been to be able to continue to champion the sector, to continue to look at the services that CVS were providing and make sure which services we're picking up as a council, which organisations we're liaising with Essex County Council and their place-based team to ensure that no organisation falls through the cracks and gets the support that they need.
Thanks, Councillor Ferguson. So to explain the role that Thurrock CVS are playing within this, so as Councillor Ferguson has alluded to, Active Essex were commissioned by Essex County Council for the place-based partnership element of a wider commission, and they went out to tender for looking for delivery partners who were competent in supporting with infrastructure support. Thurrock CVS are one of those delivery partners, and also TrustLinks, we must mention, are another delivery partner. So yes, you would have seen that Thurrock have reached out to local voluntary community organisations, and they will be delivering a series of events. So they will be listening events about what Basildon VCS organisations are looking for in terms of support, as well as
a couple of training events as well. So there'll be 4 in total. So yes, that is part of the Essex County Council place-based partnerships work. It isn't directly linked with the closure of Basildon, Billericay and Wickford CVS. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I just wanted to make clear also, so whilst it is Thurrock CVS that has contacted you, or it could be Trust Links, that is work specifically that has been tendered relating to the Basildon Borough. So whilst this isn't Thurrock CVS contacting you from Thurrock, it's actually a Basildon project, and they won the tender. I think it's also, we should also understand that, should Basildon, Billericay, Wickford CVS still be in an operation, they would have almost certainly have bid for that tender as well. So that it's the absence, I guess, that is the reason they didn't bid for that.
Well, thanks, Grant, for that information. It's funny, though, because I was never a member. My group were never a member of the Basildon CVS. So I was shocked and pleased at the same time to hear from Thurrock, unless, I don't know how they got our organisation, but they did. So I mean, because I hadn't, even, and I'm just being honest, I hadn't got that before, so it did kind of shock me. But one thing I do want to say, one of the organisation that I'm a member of is one of the community associations, and I do feel that those, there are, I don't know, is it 40 halls? And there's 20 so or something of us that have council leases. And it can be really, really stressful, very, very difficult. We do not get any support from the council. What we get is that, it's lease signing time and all the rest of it, whereas we have management, maintenance, and all of this, governance, all of this. Most of us do it, but I do know that I used to get lots of calls from other community associations that were that were finding it difficult and wanting some support or some help, and that wasn't forthcoming. I mean, so there is, to me, that there is a section. I'm not saying that I would need that support. I'm just saying there is a large group of people that do some fantastic work, because by providing those buildings, the council, because the management, the rent, the rates, everything is down to that organisation. There's no grants, nothing. And you have to be a registered charity to be able to get your 80% reduction in NNDR. So, I mean, they're doing lots of good work, and, they might be lacking in support. And within those organisations, there's lots of mini organisations. So, I mean, it isn't just them, they're running the building, but there's lots. And it's that organisation cannot give it that vital help that it could well do with. So within your your reaching out and what you've got on your agenda, it would be good to make some inroads with with some of those groups that could do with that help. Thank you, Chairman.
So I take that on board, Councillor. I do know that a member of my team, one of my colleagues, Mr. Ian Cody, does have a very strong relationship with any number of the community associations, but I will speak to him tomorrow about how we might formalise that a little bit more with Stacey. I know that he spends a huge amount of time working with the groups, but I'll take that on board. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Sargent. Can I just say as well that we have a team email address, and we all have, contact numbers and email addresses. So any groups that you may come across that for whatever reason and not seeing the support that's out there from the council, please direct them to ourselves, because we're more than happy to help any group. So, yeah, thank you.
Can I just say, Chairman, thank you very much for saying that, Stacey. And it would be good if I had an email address of, you know, not just a person. If it's a community development, that would, you know, that would be good, because once that goes out to people, because it, you know, they can. It's best they contact you themselves. You know, that's the whole point of this, because I think it's some of those little bits that are missing.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Sargent, for raising that particular issue. And as I said, and as you also have done recently, if there's support that you need, or if there's specific examples that you want to reach out, the officer team is here. I'm also here to be able to support with. I just want to kind of talk around wider support and reaching out to the voluntary and community sector. Ms Clancy and I have spoken in the last couple of weeks, particularly around kind of listening exercises, what the best ways of consultation and surveys with the voluntary and community sector. We're aware that there is lots of consultations, lots of surveys, lots of forums that are out there, but we're also appreciating that we're trying to get some slightly different information out of organisations at the moment as we move into this new way forward. So Ms Clancy and I was about to call you councillor there, but I think that's, I don't think you particularly want that. But I think Ms Clancy and I will continue that discussion over the next few weeks, and we'll continue to update this Scrutiny Committee on the actions that we undertake around that.
Thank you very much. I think I have to read this bit out here, don't I?
No, it's just for noting.
No, that's just a notice. Right, okay, next item is Community Resilience Policy and Consultation Plan.
Thank you, Chair. Quite simply, the statement around the policy statement around the Community Resilience Plan is wanting to make sure that Basildon as a whole borough is the best place for individuals to be able to be, where individuals feel supported, where communities enjoy living within, and that we can build stronger relationships with one another. We've referenced earlier in the meeting tonight around kind of how communities came together during COVID, and I think that was a really strong time for community groups supporting one another. And I think we have to kind of acknowledge that community relations haven't always been the way that we would like them to be, and we need to do further work. And that's something that is always something that should be an ongoing challenge that we try to redress, but we also have the overriding goal to make Basildon the best place it can be, where everybody feels welcome, supported and proud to belong. And for me, that key word is about belonging, and how we can make Basildon a place where everybody enjoys to be. What we're seeking to do tonight through the Community Resilience Consultation and Policy is being able to put in place a framework to enable that to be able to happen, where we can then have, following that, our strategy document that talks about how we're going to reach out into community groups, how we're going to bring community groups together to be able to support one another with a number of challenges that are being faced within our community. This is work that's been undertaken over the last year. It's work that has been also in response to what our community groups have spoken to us about and the challenges that they're facing. I'd like to particularly thank Mr Taylor and his team for developing this piece of work. And I also reiterate that this should always be an ongoing piece of work that this council is going through to ensure that Basildon is a safe place, is a place that people enjoy being in, is the best place for people to be able to be, and that a place where everybody belongs. Thank you, Chair.
Right, anybody got anything I want to say on that? No?
Yeah, I have something to say, Chair, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Again, thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. First things first, I think the consultation plan looks logical and looks very thorough. No issues with that. I think particularly kind of looking at using a variety of methods. I think is very inclusive and again thorough and logical. One thing I do like in the document is the emphasis on measuring success. And a focus on delivering outcomes to make sure that it's not just a document that is just a series of good words and high-minded ideals which essentially regurgitates the corporate plan, and we already have a document for that. One thing I did notice, obviously, in a kind of a in a long document, there's only what, a third of a page dedicated to implementation, and essentially kind of that focus on delivery. Do you think there's kind of the document strikes the right balance in how the policy highlights how we will get to those objectives, how we'll meet those objectives, ultimately how we're going to get to that end goal? Because there's a lot of the document is focused on what the objective is, kind of what the benefits of resilience and all the rest of it. So yeah, do you think there's the right balance in the document around making sure that we do get those outcomes, and obviously what we can do to implement it to end up with a resilient community at the end of it?
Yep, I mean, absolutely, you're absolutely correct. I mean, so the way the council works in its kind of policy and strategy suite is, so the policy, you're absolutely right, sets out, I guess, the outcomes that we see needed to be achieved and the reasons why that is the case. So what will happen should the policy progress through its consultation and then hopefully gain assent, I guess, through cabinet, is then we follow with clear strategies. What are we going to do? How are we going to know that it's going to work? How will we measure whether it's working, and how, when are we reviewing those things? So it will be the strategies, and you'll see in the document here, we're quite keen to focus, to start off with a policy, but to have quite a number of more specific strategies that will fall under it, that linked from our connected communities strategy and our inclusion and diversity, our health and wellbeing strategy. So we're going to really start to hone in on the areas underneath that. Should it be adopted? So that will be the approach, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Chairman. Resilience is absolutely vital at this day and age, at this time in our lives. I've tried for years to do something on this subject, and it's extremely difficult because we have a society, or part of a society now, that is becoming increasingly dependent, and it's our duty to help. It's our duty to help those people to see another side of life, and to become supporting of themselves and their own communities, because and to be valued, which is, you know, which is what they deserve. I see words, and you know, we talk about ambitions, and it's the same old words. You know, I'm not blaming yourselves, because that's all we ever seem to do, is we just put words down and then we think that this is going to happen. You know, we're going to get everyone involved and we're going to respect and include everybody. That's really, really difficult. It's very, very difficult. It's difficult for a small group, for a small area, let alone the whole of Basildon. Yes, we have to try, but it's how you're going to do it. And I think that's what, you know, it's what you were referring to. Actions speak louder than words. I learnt that a long, long time ago. And one thing that made me very sad when you took over, Jack, is when you took the support away from Basildon Side by Side and the twinning, because those were two organisations, I mean, Side by Side, were a fantastic organisation and really tapped into getting into communities, building that strength, and you know, that seems to be lost. I mean, I think they're still working without your support, and more, and all the good for them doing it, and we have to respect them for doing that. But I think for a council, you know, we should be really supporting groups like that, because the council doesn't have the capacity or the funding to do it themselves. And it's okay setting strategies and policies and all of that, but if we haven't got the the gumph behind it to make it happen, then, you know, where are we? I mean, I can't say, well, I mean, I agree with what Councillor Ansem has said. You know, I think it does need to be looked at. It's all well and good saying the stuff, but it's how you're going to do it. That needs to be brought out a bit more. And obviously, it can only be done a bit by bit, a little bit at a time. But it's what do you want to do first? Do you want to get everyone involved? You know, or it's that word resilience. Let's build their resilience, because once they feel empowered, then that's what they do, isn't it? You know, that's what people will, you know, they'll go on to benefit, rather than just being someone that is reliant on others, instead of knowing that there are, but showing them the opportunities that are there, that are in this town, you know, that we can offer them. It's how we dig into them and show them, you know, not and a policy. It's great to have that sitting on a shelf somewhere, but it's us and all us councillors. You know, we've got all these people living in our communities. There is, you know, there's emphasis on us to make sure that we get out there and do it. But set us a good policy, show us the direction you want to take, and you know, let us have a little go. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. There's a number of points that Councillor Sargent has raised that I want to be able to address. Some I agree with, some I think do need to be challenged, and I will take that opportunity this evening. But ultimately, in the broad terms of this policy, we're talking about bringing communities together, and I completely agree with you around resilience. How we can support our communities through challenging times, how we can empower our communities is absolutely right. And there is a reason why every day I dedicate my job as a community worker in my own day life rather than working in policy, because it's on delivery that matters. That's the bit that sees the difference to people's lives, by being involved in that delivery. That is exactly why I've devoted the last 2 decades of my working career to being a community worker, for that reason. I do think, and I completely agree with you around the need to develop resilience and be able to support community groups to be able to grow that. But that's where I also take issue with some of the points that you've just referenced there as well, that you've quite rightly said resilience is around how we can empower others and empower organisations to be able to thrive. Part of that empowering organisations to be able to thrive is to be able to have the council support, but doesn't necessarily mean financial support to be able to thrive either. Now, you've referenced the situation of Side by Side. Side by Side's funding was on a 3-year agreement, which you'll be aware of because that came in during your time in the cabinet position. The 3-year agreement came to an end. It wasn't that funding stopped; they just didn't apply for any more funding to be able to have. You referenced the situation around twinning. As I said at the budget setting meeting in February, that the decisions that were made were to be able to strengthen funding so that all 42 councillors are able to make funding decisions to be able to support community groups across the borough. What that has seen as over the last 18 months has been an exponential growth in funding for the voluntary and community sector, with organisations that weren't able to previously to bid into councillors of all parties, and for their ward councillors to be able to make decisions on their behalf. Just in my own area committee only a few weeks ago, the One Up Collective, an organisation who provide valuable support for young people to be able to thrive and have opportunities across the borough, were rewarded with £13,000. We were empowered as councillors on that area committee to be able to make that decision. As a Billericay area committee, sorry, I have to take that back, you are part of the Wickford area committee, you are able to make funding decisions to be able to support community groups within your ward, something that didn't happen before. The funding decisions only depend on who was in administration at the time. What we have made a decision to be able to do as a council administration, what I've made a decision to do as a cabinet member, is actually to strengthen the role of all 42 members across the borough, to enable them to do exactly as you suggest here, to be able to empower decision making, to be able to support their own communities. All the points that you've just said there, in terms of how you want to see the role of members strengthening, we've actually carried out. Now, that has naturally involved some changes along the way. But taking it back to kind of the substance of where we're going here, this policy is around how we can strengthen communities. You referenced that it's been done over many years before, and we've spoken about these challenges, and I have always recognised the support that you've offered and the seriousness and the responsibility that you took in the cabinet member for communities, and will continue to do so. But it doesn't mean that we don't, just because it's difficult, it doesn't mean we don't do it. We have to start from somewhere. And we have to start from a policy framework that sets out the ambition. And I hope that I speak for all 42 members of the council, not all of them are here, obviously, because it's a scrutiny meeting, but I hope I speak for all members, that when we set out this vision and this policy statement, that it's something that we can all get behind. Exactly as yourself and Councillor Ansell have just said, that it is in delivery that matters, and it's in the action plan that follows, that will follow the policy being done. But what's really important, and some of the conversations that I've had with Mr Taylor has been, that when we're talking about developing community resilience, when we're talking about empowering community groups, what it shouldn't just be about is the council saying, this is how we're going to do it. What we need to do is listen to the public first of all, and have them inform the decisions that we make, that then enables us to work hand in hand with the public to be able to make those decisions and make the changes that we all seek to see. This is the start of a journey. It's going to be a very long journey. It's one that doesn't always have an ending. But what it does have is a start, an administration that are prepared to take on the challenge and bring on community groups together to empower all members and support the wider community at large. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jack. You made some good points there. But one of the points that I wasn't happy about was the area committees. You said that, yes, area committees, they had funding. And when you first came in and took administration, there was quite a bit of funding. But since then, the area committees have now got to pay for the community crunches. I can't have one in Notebridge because I'm told there's no space. We can't have all the vehicles. So Notebridge, that's no good to them. So that's the crunches. But fortunately, there are parts, not all parts of Whitford that can. And then we've got the car parking charges. We now, because you put on charges, that now falls to the weekend parking, that now falls to the Whitford area committee, some of those charges. And then we've got the Pride team. So, and the sense is in the word, the Pride. There isn't one community in this borough that doesn't care about the pride within their community, particularly where they live. And I speak for all of the councillors, I'm sure all of them. But once you take that big wedge of money out of your Whitford area committee money, then, with us, there's nine councillors, because you've got 3 wards in our ones, that and we put towards community projects, but it's only because they were stopped out. It isn't anything different to what's been done before. We used to have a budget at the council, that was all stopped. But and I just hope that as we go on further, that we don't get asked or told that we've got to spend even more of our area committee money on paying for services which I've said at council that the Basildon Council should pay for, so that gives us. Otherwise, we on our area committees would have a far bigger sum to spend on those communities, instead of it going down and down, so that we're only having about 3 meetings a year where we can actually fund the projects. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. I actually wanted to be able to talk about the community resilience policy tonight, and I thought I'd set out a way to be able to do that. I will happily correct the record on a number of points that have just been raised. That the issue that the area committees are being told what to spend money on, they're not. They fundamentally have independence to be able to make decisions that they weren't otherwise going to, and that they didn't otherwise make. they also didn't have funding. The area committee model didn't exist prior to, in this borough, prior to May 2024, when I wanted to spend money as a backbench councillor, or as an opposition councillor, as I was for 2 years prior to that. I didn't have the ability to be able to do that. You, as a opposition councillor, have the ability to fund projects that you want to be able to invest in within your wards. You reference the crunch services. The crunch service didn't exist because it was abolished in 2021 in the budget that was put forward by your administration. So the fact that you have the opportunity to bring that back is something that you can fund if you want to. Actually, not all of the area committees have funded all five crunches. The Billericay one didn't. That was their choice to be able to make. The idea of car parking charges. What we're also seeing is area committees in certain parts of the borough being able to use their leverage with external groups. The Wickford Area Committee, I think, is a good example of being able to leverage funding from the Wickford Town Council to be able to say, we recognise the council's got funding challenges that it's facing. We will put forward this amount from our area committee if you will also match fund that. So being able to strengthen the role of opposition councillors in a way that they weren't able to be able to do beforehand by leveraging the sources of funding that are out there. I hope the Billericay Area Committee takes that upon themselves to be able to do. That is not my role to be able to make that decision, though. I respect the mandate that those 9 members in the Billericay Area Committee have to be able to make that decision within each of their wards. I'd be interested to know the organisations that have had their funding stopped that you've taken on through your area committee, because that is news to me. We have made changes to the process, and as you rightly referenced, that there was funding pots for organisations to be able to bid in for before, but they were limited at a certain amount of money to be able to do that. What we have set out through the area committees is organisations being able to bid in for higher amounts, whether that's from revenue or capital projects. I use the example of the One Up Collective in Basildon that delivers vital work around for young people that were awarded £13,800 through the Basildon Area Committee meeting 2 weeks ago. That was an amount of money that they weren't able to apply for before. The previous grant scheme had significantly less as the threshold that organisations were able to bid in for. So I think if we're going to make these points, I think we need to make them based on fact. And I'm disappointed that I've had to correct the record tonight, because most importantly, I came here to be able to address the issue of community resilience and how we can empower that and empower community groups. I think the area committees is a vital way. I don't think we should be sidetracked in these discussions. And I think we should take this issue head on, addressing the challenges that we face across the borough, supporting our community groups, recognising our role as councillors, as community leaders, to be able to do that, speak to the public, get them involved in shaping this policy, and deliver an action plan that delivers real difference to residents across the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I would just like to say, excuse me.
Sorry.
I would just like to say that I think it's a brilliant idea having the area committees, that we can take our budget and decide what we want to spend it on. In Langdon Hills, we've decided to use it for the crunch and the various pride teams, but only in particular areas, not as a general thing. We have got a budget which we can decide ourselves what we want to spend it on, and it's... Councillor Sargent, can you turn your mic off, please? Yeah. That we can spend it on what we want to spend it on by discussion. Because when I came into this administration, I was accused of all sorts of things, of supporting the Labour Party. It's not a question of supporting the Labour Party, it's a question of working with them. And when they work with these projects and explain to me what we can do in our area, I think it's a fantastic idea. And I pray to God that it doesn't change, because too much money was put in the wrong areas that we couldn't put it across the council. And I think what we've got at the moment is absolutely fantastic, and I certainly don't want it to change. And I've said my bit.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. It's unfortunate that we brought area committees into it, but nonetheless, this is a scrutiny committee, and that's what, you know, that's the whole point of being on a scrutiny committee, is saying what we feel about the policy. And I've said my bits on the policy, and I do hope that you and your cabinet will take them on board, because that's the point of it. We just got distracted. It's nice to hear, Val, that you are really happy and your community's happy with that money. I am really pleased for you. But as I say, getting back to the crux of the matter, I do hope that we can get some form of resilience. I know it's not going to happen overnight, and I think I've said that. We've been trying for years. But what we want is action speaking louder than words. Thank you.
Mr. Sergeant, I think, as far as I'm concerned, that with my area committee, and I'm not the chairman of that, Kerry Smith is, and I think the way we discuss how we're going to deal with it, it's fine. It's open to everybody. We never had that chance before. Jack, have you got anything else you want to say?
No, thank you for your support for the policy. I hope I've got the Scrutiny Committee's support for the policy. Councillor Sargent, as opposition lead for communities, as I've always said and repeated, that my door is always open for engagement with you around this. Community resilience it should be at the heart of what we try and do as a council, and we must use every tool and every reach that we have to be able to do that, and I look forward to working with you to achieve that.
Have we got to do anything with this? Okay. Right, can we go on to the final bit? Sorry?
Put it away. You need to read it out to us, Val.
I thought you was a bit more experienced than that.
No, I am. I just thought I'd leave you to it.
Right, okay, the last item on the agenda is the work programme. Thank you, God. And we've got a draft work programme with various items on. Is there anybody wants to add an item?
We can come back to you, can we?
You can come back to
We
me.
can come back to you.
You can email,
Chairman.
I think it's Suzanne, isn't it? Yeah, you can email Suzanne if you've got a suggestion. I'm open to whatever you want to put on it, providing.
Now I've got
it's gonna work.
I've got a couple of things, but I won't say until, and then it's up to you as to whether you want to put them on. And I just want to say thank you very much for tonight's meeting. I know you're always going on at me about I'm having a go at you, but I think it's been a very meaty meeting. We've had some good stuff to deal with, and that's what real scrutiny is all about. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. I do appreciate that. Right, chaps, home time.